It started with a crack, so thin you could have mistaken it for a stray pencil mark. One of those you don't notice till the light hits it just right. But I noticed, because cracks have a way of speaking, and if you've spent years watching structures fall apart for a living, you learn to listen before the shouting starts. Back in Afghanistan, a crack like that meant bad news, sometimes just a leaky roof, sometimes the kind of thing that swallows a convoy whole. And Arizona's soil, with all its clay, it doesn't forgive weight or neglect. The ground breathes and shifts under our feet, whether or not we want to believe it. That morning, mug in hand, I crouched by the HOA pool deck, tracing that line as it snaked toward the retaining wall. The wall was bowing, a hair, maybe half an inch, but enough to make my stomach clench. So I did what anyone with a stubborn streak and a little too much time does. I took it straight to Carlin, our HOA president, the undisputed queen of Oak Glen Estates, retired realtor and full-time collector of neighborhood offenses. We butted heads over Halloween decorations and grass height, but this wasn't petty. This was a warning. I told her what I saw, asked for an inspection, and she gave me that realtor smile, the kind that's all teeth, no warmth. We redid that pool deck 3 years ago. It's perfectly safe. I tried again, clay soil, overdue testing, you name it. She cut me off, said, "No need to panic over a little crack. You should see my driveway." She promised to bring it up at the next meeting, which was her way of burying it alive. But I'm nothing if not persistent. I took photos, measured, marked it with chalk. Every other day, I checked and logged. By the time the meeting came, the crack had widened 2 millimeters, which, if you know concrete, is a red flag the size of a billboard. I showed up early, handed out my report, photos, soil surveys, angles measured. Even a suggestion to bring in an engineer. Carlin skimmed it, called it detailed. Gary the treasurer joked about me being bored in retirement, and the rest of the board moved on to solar panels and barbecue plans. They boiled my warning down to 2 sentences, then brushed it aside. I left angry, not because they didn't listen to me, but because I could see the train coming down the tracks and no one cared. I sent everything to my daughter, Katie, structural engineer, lives in Denver. She didn't sugarcoat it. That's not nothing. If it sinks, someone's gonna sue. She asked about the pool's foundation, but it was built in '98, probably shallow footers. She told me to document and warn people, so I did. Made flyers, not accusing anyone, just telling folks to keep an eye on the pool. Next morning, they were torn down and I got a notice. Stop posting non-approved materials or face fines. They thought that would shut me up. They didn't know who they were dealing with. I'd spent years with the Army Corps of Engineers, flood barriers in Baton Rouge, earthquake zones in California, roads rebuilt in Iraq. But here, I was just Rick Holloway, Unit 14C, cranky old guy with a tape measure. 3 days after the meeting, I heard my name drift through the air, Carlin and her buddies, laughing about retired military types always looking for a war. They had no idea I was behind the hedge, knuckles white, holding back words I'd regret. That night, I dug out my old files, certificates, field reports, my own textbook on soil instability. I never wanted to be the guy flashing credentials, but they'd crossed a line. I wrote a formal letter, attached proof, photos, everything. Certified mail to the board, digital copy through their website, immediate third-party inspection advised. Failure to do so risks structural collapse. For liability purposes, this is now on record. Suddenly, I got a call, not from Carlin, but Maya, her college intern assistant, who thanked me and said the board would review it in executive session next month. Next month. It was no longer negligence. It was strategy. Katie told me, "Stop asking, start preparing." So I did. I handed my reports door to door. Most people smiled, nodded, tossed them when I left. But Diana Rivera, widowed with 2 grandkids who lived for pool days. She listened. "My niece fell into a collapsed sidewalk in Tempe," she said. "They said it was just erosion. She broke her hip. That hit her, and she promised to talk to her sister, a paralegal." For the first time, I wasn't alone. The next morning, Carlin sent out a blast email, false reports and misinformation. No names, but everyone knew who she meant. At the dog park, people avoided me. Karen Monroe muttered that some people needed a life. Still, I kept checking the deck, and 4 Sundays after that first crack, I found a soft spot. Felt it sag beneath my boot. Documented. Photographed. Sent to Carlin and the city's public works. No reply. Next time I walked by the clubhouse. Pool closed for maintenance. 6 days of caution tape. Then, like magic, it was open again. Summer splash weekend. Cracks patched. No notice. No inspection. Just a fresh coat of silence and a party. I called in a favor from Brian Lucier, an old student of mine, now a field engineer. He came by, took one look, and said, "The ground's shifting. It's not good." He did an off-the-record soil test. Oversaturated, clay swelling, surface cracks hiding bigger movement. He gave me a brief report. I sent it to the board, posted it to the HOA forum. That got people talking, until Carlin deleted the thread and warned me to stop fear-mongering, threatening legal action. I kept copies of everything. Then, one day, the ground opened up, a fresh fracture, 3 inches wide, running from the retaining wall to the fence. I called an old friend, Jeffrey Hill, now with the city's environmental department. He took it seriously, escalated it. While I waited for the city, the neighborhood started whispering, some siding with Carlin, others quietly joining me. The fault line group, we called ourselves, shared evidence, mapped every crack. Still, the board claimed all was fine. Then, the city's engineers came. Unmarked truck, quiet inspection, no fanfare. Preliminary findings, ground instability, possible sink risk. I barely slept that night. Next morning, I saw water seeping from a new fracture in the pool deck, half an inch wide. Structural, not cosmetic. I filmed it, shared it, and by noon, the Facebook page exploded. Carlin shut the pool. Too late. The forecast called for rain, heavy rain. When the storm hit, it was biblical. I grabbed my flashlight, my camera, ignored the wind and the rain. Then I heard it, the earth groaning, like a bridge giving way. The retaining wall buckled, the pool deck dropped, and water exploded. Out, dragging concrete, chairs, the whole mess into the wash. I filmed, neighbors screamed. The HOA president stood frozen under an umbrella, mascara running, watching the story unravel. By nightfall, first responders had cordoned everything off. The pool area condemned. News crews showed up. Residents say HOA ignored warnings. The board went silent. At the emergency meeting, Carlin tried to spin it as an incident, claimed there'd been no official warning. I stood up, reminded everyone of the evidence. Emails, certified letters, expert reports. People started clapping, Diana, then others. The board crumbled. Resignations came quick. The city took over, formed a temporary committee. They asked me to advise, not lead, just guide. Weeks passed. Healing happened. The garden we built where the pool had been wasn't fancy, but it was ours. Neighbors who once avoided me now brought muffins, offered apologies, showed up to help. Even Carlin, defeated, handed me a check for the community fund, along with a note. "You weren't trying to fight. You were trying to protect. I'm sorry I couldn't see it sooner." I didn't need her apology, but it softened something all the same. The final city report called the collapse preventable, early warnings ignored, willful neglect. The story hit the news, not as scandal, but as a lesson. I spoke at state seminars, told new HOA boards, your job isn't to control, it's to protect. The neighborhood changed, not perfect, but watchful. The cracks didn't vanish, but now everyone looked for them. And when we found them, we faced them together. If you're wondering, I still walk the slope every week. Old habits die hard. And every time I do, I remember, it's not about being right. It's about being heard. Because cracks aren't just flaws. They're signs, invitations to pay attention before the ground gives way. And sometimes, if you're stubborn enough, you might just keep a whole community from falling in. So let me ask you, what would you have done? Ever been the only voice in the room? Drop your story in the comments. Let's talk about justice, community, and what it really takes to make people listen.